Hello and welcome to this new course or playlist called Thinking in React. As the name suggests, we'll be diving deep into the fundamentals, the core founding concepts over which this awesome web framework is built. Basically, I can say that anyone who doesn't have like pretty much any knowledge regarding this will be able to build some really cool front ends once we finish with this playlist. So without further ado, let's get started. First of all, let us answer the question why we should study React. So on the display in front of you, I have a survey of Stackoverflow. Now in this survey, developers were asked which particular web framework are they currently working in and which particular web framework are they interested in, like the framework they want to work in. So these lines in between that you can see. For example, first of all, the first thing that we can see here is the largest chunk of this sort of pie chart is being occupied by React.js. Why are these lines? This graph represents that like these many people currently working in Angular and wanted to work in React. These particular chunk of people were already working in React and also would like to work in React. That means they were in sort of a win-win situation. So like this, we can say React is also one of the most popular and one of the most demanded web frameworks out there. Here is another survey which compares among all these frameworks like React, Vue, Express, which is the most loved and which is the most dreaded framework. Up here, you can also see like almost 70% people, like 70 people out of 100 people will say that they love React. So this is one of the most popular and loved frameworks out there. Now let's answer the question, what is React? Obviously, upon Googling a bit, we can see that React is a free and open source front-end JavaScript library for building user interfaces based on UI components. I've shortened this down a bit. React is basically a JS library for building user interfaces. So, as the above definition suggests, the UI components is an important point that we use here. And we'll see what components are, what is UI, and I hope JavaScript, you know what is JavaScript. Okay. Now, coming to components. What do we understand by components in React? I've taken the example of Airbnb website here. So using this particular website, I want to demonstrate the concept of reusability of components. As you can see here, upon visiting this page and searching for anything, let's say to get this particular field, I searched for tiny homes near me. So as you can see, these are many cards displayed here. But if you look closely, you can see that let's compare this one and this one. So you can see these two sort of cards are exactly the same. I mean, the shape of this card and this card is the same. This little heart icon is consistent throughout all the cards. All these cards have this title. The distance this particular location is from your current location, the price, and the availability. So what we can deduce from this Airbnb website is, instead of creating separate cards for separate results, they have created a common component or sort of a template like this one, and using that common component, populating it with dynamic or different data, these different and these multiple cards are created for different results. So in this case, what we can deduce is that one particular component can be used dynamically to make multiple components, and populating it with whatever data we like or whatever data is of concern. Another great metaphor for, or another great example of this concept can be seen here. Okay, we all know who the Kazakh or Aslam Sir is, if you all have seen the Ramayana. So basically, what happened is there's this one guy who portrayed several characters throughout the show. So what the director did was he took Aslam Sir as one component, one reusable component, customized it a little bit. Like here, the costume is changed. Here, a headgear is attached. Fake mustache is also there. Here. So basically, I don't think there's a better what do you say example to understand how reusable a component is and how this component exhibits is its most crucial functionality, that is reusability. Moving on, what is another benefit of React? Now, what we do is, like if we create a static HTML page in React, what we can do is we can divide that particular page into several components or a component tree. Let's say you are creating a portfolio website. Now, this consists of a home page, and in your on the top of your home page, you have three tabs: About Me, Projects, and Contact. So instead of creating writing all these components or creating this content from scratch, what we can do is we can create components. Let's say About Me, Projects, and Contact. All these three tabs have similar data, have similar properties. For example, let's say theoretically they had three paragraphs. All right. About Me is a page that has 1, 2, and 3 paras. Same with projects and same with contact. Now we have two options. Either what we can do is we can create three separate files for these three tabs and we can fill it with whatever data we want. Or what we can do is we can create a component that will represent let's say it will be component tab. And then we can use this component tab and populate the data dynamically in it. So two of the problems are being solved here. Number one is our code gets a lot cleaner. Instead of having a cluttered code, we get a clean code and a code that is more scalable, more readable, and more modular. And the second thing is we don't have code redundancy here. I mean, if there's something that is repeated, that we can avoid using this components methodology. If you don't know much of the details that I'm talking about, don't worry. We'll cover all of that in the coming videos. So here's a little comparison between the Bootstrap code versus React code. So this is the Bootstrap code consisting of all the cluttering HTML used to create a navbar. And if we switch to React, what we can do is we can create, we can stuff all this code inside these components. All right. So it sort of behaves like our custom HTML component. Inside the body, we have three components, and then inside this my header component, we can have like further components as well. So it keeps on building on top of one another. All right. So most of the times we try to keep these, or let's say we are advised to keep our HTML, CSS, and JavaScript code separate. But in React, and basically the thing that React benefits from is by combining these three in little quantities and forming like small packets with them or these components, so that these little components have their own unique style, their own unique functionality, and they can behave independently, a little independently as compared to if we kept them separate. A great example, since we all know that React is created by Facebook. Here is an older version of Facebook. As you can see, in here, if we wanted to see anything, like if you wanted to invite someone, we have to click here and the whole page gets refreshed first. Then we are displayed whatever data is there. But imagine if all this stuff like this home, search, browse, these cards in the news feed, and this list here, all of these are different little components which are behaving independently and are updating in real time. Like they're getting refreshed, they're getting re-rendered in lifetime. How smooth and how efficient that particular website will get, and that is basically how Facebook is now. As you can see, like if you're working and if you're scrolling through the news feed, if you keep scrolling down, when you reach to the very bottom and you see that there was no new post initially, but as soon as you reach the bottom of the news feed, like this this particular area gets refreshed and you get new content below. So you keep scrolling. It's sort of an infinite scroll. Similar with the notifications, with the messages. If someone is sending you a messages, or sorry, if someone is sending you a message, you don't need to first click here and then see whether you received a message or not. In real time, this notification will pop up. It will show you that one, two, like in this case, three unread messages are there, and this is happening um, independently without you trying to refresh it separately. So, how does it work? Basically, as told before, your document is divided into a component tree, and what React does is it compares your document, the older version of your DOM with the newer version, and it looks for, let's say, sort of spotting the changes, right? It looks where the change has been made. In this case, this particular node has been updated. So instead of refreshing the whole document or the whole page, React just re-renders that particular component that has been changed. To give a better metaphor or a better example for this particular sort of image game we all have played in our childhood. So in this, what we did was we compared these two photographs. Say right here, this tongue is missing, this hairpin is missing from grandma, the time in the clock is different. So we as humans are taking some time, but React, it does that almost instantly. So you can remember this concept using this particular image, like spot the difference. React spots the difference between the two versions and then re-renders whatever component has been changed. Now again, why React? Because you can see from Google Trends, this shows like which particular framework has been Google searched. So you can see in the past years, React is like left Vue and Angular like behind, taking a massive leap. And if you are interested in working in any of these companies, in fact, not only these, tons and tons of companies nowadays are using React for their front end, for the front end of the website. Big players like Netflix, Facebook, Airbnb, Reddit, all of these use React for their front end, for the front end of the websites. So what will we be learning throughout this course or playlist? So these are some random topics that we'll be learning. For example, JSX, what is props, what is ES6, how to import and export components, object or array destructuring, virtual DOM, state, arrow functions, and a lot more. So don't worry if you don't even understand any one of these topics. We'll cover all of them, and I don't think you're supposed to have any like required knowledge regarding these components. But yeah, are there any prerequisites? Yes, I expect you to have a very basic understanding of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and that too, like, is not that of a hard-lined one. So in case you get stuck, I'll try to keep giving you links and references in order to tackle if you get any blocker in between. Moreover, we'll be building several projects in this, several mini projects. It will be fun making them, and I'll try to have several practice sessions. But like in between a video, I will ask you to pause the video and give it a try yourself. So what you're expected to do is pause it, think again, try to solve it manually yourself, If you get stuck, perhaps some hints might be there. Again, play the video, see if you could solve the riddle using the hint. And if you're able to do it, good. If you're not able to do it, good. Just watch the solution. Again, go back to the beginning code, the starter code, and again try it yourself. So, as you can see here, this is what the starting scenario will be like. We'll be welcomed by this very plain or minimalistic user experience. Here, these are some options right here. These are the templates that we have, or sort of, let's say, the starter codes. And I have logged in using my GitHub account in this. I highly encourage you all to create one if you haven't until now. Sooner or later, you'll be requiring that a lot. So, in order to get started, we can hit on New Sandbox. Now you can see here we have multiple frameworks like React, Vue, Angular, and by selecting any one of these frameworks, you will be able to get the starter code or like the basic files already configured, the folder structure already arranged, and we can just start coding. So once you click on React, you'll be directed to a window like this. So this is how the starting code sandbox looks like. Okay, so whatever code right here is in this sandbox, please ignore this. When we'll be practicing, I will be sharing a sandbox link with you, and in that the starter code will be there. Most of these files will be empty, and only the required and the very trivial code will be there. So right here you might be seeing these exports, text.js, app.js. We'll keep on learning, keep on building, and we'll learn how this particular folder structure is created and why these naming conventions are like this. So let's have a walkthrough in this. On the left hand pane, you'll be able to see this is the folder structure in a public folder. We have index.html, source, we have app.js, index.js, styles.js, and package.json. Here we have the dependencies that we have in this project. So on hitting package.json, you'll be able to see this is React, React DOM, React scripts, and if any one of you have had some experience with VS Code, you'll be able to relate a lot. As you can see, the folder structure in this left pane, which is collapsible. You can collapse or uncollapse this using these icons. It is highly inspired by VS Code, and let me show you one thing here. See, these are the dependencies, alright? Dependencies as in these are sort of the packages or modules that we have included in our project so as to use some functionalities or some functions out of these modules. If if you ever had the chance of using some programming language, like in case of C++ or Java, you might see that, let's say for C++, for instance, we have to include some header files in the very beginning, right? Let's say you'll be using some mathematical functions. We include method.h, and using that, we tap into that library, and in that particular library, we have several functions. We use some function, so they are basically some redundant codes that are used a lot. So instead of creating separate functions, instead of writing that code again and again several times, what developers did, the React developers, they created these sort of modules so that any new developer like you and me, we can simply add them to our package and use the required functions like on the go and without worrying about what is happening behind the scenes. So see right here, package.json dependencies, 3 dependencies are here. If let's say I remove this React dependency, now you'll see this preview pane right here. It is popping errors right here and basically shouting at us saying that something is not right. Now, if you have used VS Code before or any local environment, you might be aware that we need to add these packages separately via the terminal or our command prompt in Windows. Sorry, yeah. So in this case, adding a module is as simple as writing it and clicking on the relevant name here. So as you can see, the code is back on, and if you have used npm before, the node package manager, it is fully supported in CodeSandbox as well. So it is very versatile in this particular reference. So this was about the left pane. In the middle pane, this is the area which is of the most concern to us. We'll be spending most of our time right here. So as you can see, some starter code is right here. Don't worry about this. Just think of this as some sort of black box, and we are just trying stuff in order to understand what this does. So as you might have seen, as I removed those the other header tag and added this word instead of whatever gibberish was right here, this particular preview was updating in real time, right? So this third pane right here, this gives us a sort of a preview of whatever stuff is going to get displayed on the web page, which is basically this project itself. So using this button right here, you'll be able to pop it out in a separate window. Okay, let's save this. Okay, you can see here hello world is being displayed, and this is basically how our first, or let's say this starting, let me rename this. So you might see that CodeSandbox automatically assigns these unique random strings to your sandboxes, which you can rename anytime by visiting it. Now here, this is the little preview. Here we have console. Console, basically whatever browser you use, you see the console. To tap into it, you hit inspect. And similarly, these features are available as a minimalistic third pane in CodeSandbox. This is the problems tab. What this particular tab does is it will show us the basic errors, the linting errors, or whatever syntax errors we might run into. Whoops. Okay. Let me delete this one right here, and you can see it is now fully populated, shouting at us like JSX closing tag for H is causing some issues. We have one closing tag for header 1, and using this basically predicts that this error is being caused, and this might be the reason for it. So pretty handy for debugging our code. We put the one back on, and the preview is working just fine. Moving on, this is one of the core functionalities of CodeSandbox and why we prefer it as our code editor in the first place. Using this share button right here, you'll be able to share your project with other developers, your friends, in order to work on a particular project, in order to collaborate over it. You can either type their username or email, or you can simply copy the sandbox link and sorry, paste it right here. It is loading. and you can see lesson 1 is here. So basically, as you can see, we first see this was the app. Hello world. As you can see, I am not signed in this window, but still I'm able to see my project. I'm able to see that Ritik Mishra is the author of this, and still able to use the functionality that CodeSandbox offers along with this. So pretty handy to share with people, to collaborate with them. Let me close this. Now, in addition to sharing this, what you can do is, and what we'll be doing for most of the time is, you can fork a sandbox in order to create your own copy for it. Okay, so for those of you who don't know what forking is basically cloning or creating your own copy of something. For instance, in this particular scenario, we have this project with us. Now I want to share it with someone. At the same time, I'm also concerned that this third guy that we're talking about should not mess with my initial code. So in order to prevent him or her from doing that, and in order to create, let's say, another version of this code and whatever modifications we are hoping for, in order to have those modifications in this another copy, we fork out a copy, or in simple terms, it's a simply like called like okay, I have forked out this sandbox. I have forked out this repo. So this way you create a clone. In the upcoming lessons, we'll be also doing this. I'll be sharing a sandbox link with you. You will be forking your own copy from that, and you will code on that particular copy so that the initial sandbox, the initial link stays intact for other peeps to work on it as well. So moving on. So the flow of our lectures will be like this. We'll be learning a new topic, a new let's say topic only. We'll learn something, we'll practice it, we'll learn, we'll practice. So once we've reached a certain milestone, once we've had n number of newly learned stuff in our bag, we'll introduce a project in this, or a part of a project. We'll try to substitute, use whatever knowledge we've gained up till now in that project. Then we'll again move further. We'll learn new stuff. We'll practice it. We'll learn, we'll practice. And again, we'll move on to a project. So, from a bird's eye view, let's once again, summarize whatever we've seen. What are basically the benefits of CodeSandbox? So number one and most important feature is we can code on the go. We don't have to run through whatever configurations are there, whatever installations are there, or the add-ons and etc. Simply create your own sandbox, start coding, and produce right there. Second one, as I showed you, you can share your sandbox with another developer. You can collaborate in lifetime. You can code 2, 3 and number of friends on one particular project. However, don't take this in to a greater level because that creates confusion. Your sandbox can also be embedded in blog sites like Medium. Now, if you've ever read an article written by some developer, you might have seen in websites like Medium and like TechCrunch and it's like stuff like that. Sometimes they need to demonstrate or to show a snippet of their code. In order to do it, what they do is they have a certain, let's say, a part of their code or a little demo embedded in that particular blog site. So using CodeSandbox, you can achieve that as well. That's one another important functionality, that the whatever project you're working on, it can also be deployed within the same app. Now, what is deployment and how to do it? We'll see it in the coming lessons. So, one line for 4 lines, it basically reduces your headache regarding setup, configuration, and stuff like that. So, that's it for this particular session. I'll see you in the next one.